All right, hey guys, today we're going to be talking about metals, nonmetals, and metalloids from the periodic table of elements. So you can either print the link that I gave you on the assignment and you'll get these 2 pages that I have here, or you can use the periodic table from the lesson before. Either way works, but you do need a periodic table of elements. If you like things to be a little bit neater, you might want to print off a new sheet. But I'm fine either way as long as you can read the stuff and you're doing things lightly. So what we're going to talk about are metals, nonmetals, and metalloids, where they're at, and some other properties about them. So let's get started. So again, if you printed this off, I use color codes for mine. Well, you have to color code it for the key, but I use blue for metals, pink or red for nonmetals, and then green for metalloids. So again, you can color this sheet, or you can use this sheet that we used from before. And if you notice at the top, I put a little key right here, so I could say which one was what. So if you do decide to do it on this table, make sure you have a key so you know which ones are metals, nonmetals, and metalloids. All right, so let's start with metals. Metals are, most of the periodic table is made up of metals. Some properties of metals is they're shiny, they're malleable, meaning they're easy to bend like aluminum foil, or easy to put into flat sheets. They're ductile, meaning that it's easy to pull them into thin wires like copper. So they don't break very easily. So you're able to bend them and pull them. And they are good conductors of heat and electricity. And most of them are solid at room temperature. There's 2 that are not. And for metals, they're typically more reactive because their valence electrons, they don't have a full outer shell. So they are typically more reactive. And so I've got some examples down here. So now what we're going to do is you're going to go to your periodic table and we're going to color in the metals. So I'll come here and I'm going to use my original one that we used last year, and I'm going to use light blue. So for this, do not color in hydrogen. Hydrogen is not a metal. So you may either lightly shade, or if you have highlighter, whatever you would like to do, but you're basically going to go through and you're going to color all of group 1 with the exception of hydrogen. You're going to color in all of the transition metals. So that's groups 3 through 12. You're going to do the lanthanides and the actinides at the bottom because those are part of the transitional metals, even though they're not attached, even though technically they are. And then here's where it gets a little tricky. So you've got boron, aluminum. Well, aluminum is definitely a metal. So we're going to go all the way down here. You are not going to color in boron. All right. You've got tin is definitely a metal, and lead. And then you've got bismuth. And then what you're going to do is that's it. So it kind of gets a little tricky once you get over by aluminum and tin and bismuth, but make sure you color in all of these, whatever color you picked for your key, but make sure you can still read the periodic table. Just do it very lightly. All right. All right, and then now let's talk about nonmetals. Nonmetals are basically the opposite of metals. They're on the right side of the periodic table. They're very brittle, so they're not malleable, they're not ductile. They are very dull. They're poor conductors of heat and electricity. Most of them are gases at room temperature, and they are less reactive because most of their outer shells are full or close to full. So I gave you some examples down here of carbon, phosphorus, sulfur. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to get our nonmetals. So I'm going to do pink. So all of group 18, 17 and 18 are metals, nonmetals. Okay, and then you go. Oops, that's weird. Why is that doing that? And then make sure you got here. I'm not sure why my pen picked up. That was weird. Okay. All right, so now we've got all of those, and then we need to do, I forgot three more, sorry. So now you got carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, so make sure you get all of those. All right, so those are all of your nonmetals. All right, and then lastly, we have metalloids. They're kind of a mixture between both of them. They're considered semiconductors, meaning they're okay at conducting heat and electricity, but they're not great at it, but they can do it. A lot of technology for your computers and things are made of metalloids or have metalloid parts in there, like silicon. The outer shell is about half full, which makes sense because it's kind of reactive, but not as much as metals. And they share properties of both. So they can be shiny like a metal, but brittle like a nonmetal. Or they can be a good conductor and hard like a metal, but brittle like a nonmetal. So metalloids are kind of the in-between. So we're going to go, and it's basically the ones that you didn't color are going to be metalloids. But there is one important part that I do want to point out. This is the zigzag. So if yours kind of got lost in the mix, but what the zigzag is, and let's see how dark, there it goes. So right between boron and aluminum, you start there. And then you're going to draw a line between aluminum and silicon, and then a line between germanium and silicon, then a line between arsenic and germanium, and then between arsenic and antimony, then antimony and tellurium, then tellurium and polonium. So this little zigzag is very important because that zigzag tells you where the metalloids are. So what you can do is, I kind of think of it like you fall down the staircase. You always start at boron, and then you trip to silicon, and then you go down and over, down and over, and down. And that's your metalloids. So your metalloids share properties of metals and nonmetals. So they're kind of in between, which makes sense because they divide the metals and the nonmetals on your periodic table of elements. So make sure you get this completed. Make sure you have all the parts here. And then once you're done with that, you're going to take a picture of your completed or your colored in periodic table of elements. And then your last part is to either in your notebook or print off the sheet, you're going to make a little table for properties of metals, list your properties of metals, tell me where you find them on the periodic table of elements, and then you're going to give me some examples. So if you paid attention during this should be, I basically gave you the answers to everything. And then metalloids, just make sure you tell me what a metalloid is and then give me 3 examples and where is it found. And then same thing with the nonmetals. So 3 properties, 3 examples, and where are they found. Then once you're done with the periodic table, you're done with your little table. Take pictures, put on the Google Doc, and then you're done. And then that's how you do metals, nonmetals, metalloids.